everyone, I hope you're well. Today we will look at a Derwent set. So these couple of products Derwent sent me very kindly just at the end of last year, the Shade and Tone Mixed Media set and Inktense Paint Pen set number 2. So there's also Inktense paper pad, which I will try in another video, but today I will swatch out the Inktense Paint Pen set, and I have already tried it. I have created some artwork a couple of videos ago, and you can see it. I'll try to link it up here in the right corner. This set contains 12 colors, and all the colors are super vibrant and bright, so if you love color, this set might be for you. There are a couple of other palettes which have different colors in them. You also get this like a water pen brush, and it's quite convenient as you have a little stopper there, so you can fill up the container with water, put the stopper in, and then once you're on location you can just unclip it. Otherwise it wouldn't fit in to that compartment as it would be too long. And it's quite neat to have the stopper there anyway. So you can take the palettes out in the 6, and if you wanted to paint with those specific colors, you could actually take it into out of the pan and just lay it on top of the sketchbook, which I find quite convenient. I tried to see if I could get the individual half pans out, but my nails were freshly painted and I didn't want to risk scraping the nail polish off. So that's basically the layout. You also get a little sponge on the right side, which is also quite convenient if you have loads of water on your brush and you want to control it. So the colors that come in this palette is Sherbet Lemon, so this is the color right here, and it's actually my favorite color in the Inktense pencil set, which you'll see later. I will pull out just to get the same pencil in this color out. Then we have bright orange, and next color is cherry, so it's like a warm pink. And then we also have a cool toned pink, which is the fuchsia. And then we will go into a purple, which is violet. You can build the colors up quite nicely. One color that I thought didn't look as bright was this navy blue, and I wonder whether when it popped out, maybe I placed it back in with the wrong side. I think they have some sort of maybe coating on the reverse side or not, I'm not sure, but yeah, it didn't have the strength of the pigment in there. Then we have turquoise, which is of course a super beautiful color, which I love. And then we have iodine green, also very pretty muted green. Then hooker's green, and also another favorite from this palette is red oxide. It's like a burnt sienna type of a color. Then we have Payne's gray, love this color as well. And to finish we have antique white, which I decided to just kind of experiment a little bit here and mix it into the Payne's gray and see how opaque or how the tone would sort of change by doing that. And then I also tried to use the white and dip it into the wet Payne's gray to see again the opacity level of it and just how it sort of behaves and mixes and flows. So that was a lot of fun. A good thing to do when you are just sort of familiarizing yourself with a new paint set is to try and mix some colors, or what I'm doing here to begin with is picking out groups of or pairs of 2 colors that I would like to have next to each other, like little minimal color palettes type of thing, and just see how they flow into each other, whether the color that they would create would be a nice one. So what I've done here is I have taken again the red oxide and Payne's gray and actually mixed it this time on the palette and tried to get a middle tone, and yeah, just seeing how the color would change by adding more paint, or sorry, more water. The color here was quite similar to Moon Glow. It had that beautiful kind of warm gray color and a little bit of separation in there. Again, playing with the wet and wet technique is always loads of fun because you can build it up and it creates a lovely texture which can be reminiscent of like animal fur or certain fabric textures and finishes. So I would definitely use this technique, and I have actually been using this technique lately in creating dresses for my illustrations. A couple of other colors here, again doing the same thing, mixing them on the palette and then just letting the colors flow into one another. And now just sort of a bit of everything, just kind of testing of how these paints behave. They're not the typical watercolor, they're obviously Inktense paints, so they have a different compound, and therefore they will behave slightly different. They will have that feeling of working with watercolors, but it's not exactly the same thing because of the pigments, I guess, that are used in inks and then versus watercolors. I don't know exactly how these paints have been created, but I'm just sharing how it feels from the point of view of a creator. So having loads of experience with watercolor, I know that they feel slightly different in that sense. So now moving on to trying to, and I think this is now in real time, the rest of the video will be all in real time, so it was slightly sped up because otherwise it would be a very stretched out video. So, so I'm trying to mix some skin tones, and I will be basically creating illustrations using this set and seeing how I can utilize it in my art making, art creation. So to begin with, I tried to mix a number of colors and then just kind of sway from one skin tone to another. I could have actually easily mixed a much darker skin tone because the red oxide is a great color for that, but for some reason when I was mixing I didn't think of doing that. So here I'm trying to push the color a little bit more to a peach tone and adding different colors like the bright orange and then a little bit of white to it. I felt that having the white was very convenient when creating skin tones. I could easily bring, like I said, pinker tones to the colors, and then if things were too pink, for instance, I could then literally add a little bit of white and that would tone the pinkness a bit down, which was very convenient. And it's very easy to go from warm to all sorts of skin tones with this palette. Here's just a very basic 4 skin tones examples. And I decided to use my kind of favorite or some of the favorite colors from this palette, and Payne's Grey is one of them. I will of course later use the Sherbet Lemon because just love that color. It's the perfect kind of chartreuse color, especially if you add a touch of Payne's Grey into it. In fact, I didn't need to add anything, I just had a bit of residue on the brush, but anyway, you'll see that later. So here I am playing with my Tintoretto brush, and to be able to do that sort of a thing with Tintoretto brush, you need to have the space. So Tintoretto brush is not kind of a practical brush. It's purely for fun. So you need to use a regular brush to kind of load it up onto the palette area, and then let the Tintoretto brush suck all that color up like a little sponge, and you saw how quickly it did that. And then you can use that in the art making. So you can see I'm creating these little droplets, and the color goes to the tip of the brush once you tilt it to create art. So if you hold it sort of like upright but down facing, it will create different thicknesses of lines, going from very thin to very thick. Obviously you'll start with a blob, and then from there you can get thinner lines, etc. The color, actually, the Payne's grey bled a little bit into those skin tones, and I quite liked it. It was a spontaneous type of a, well, sort of a mistake, but I actually later made it work, and I think off camera, but I added some little white gel pen dots to create a mesh, sort of like little hats with mesh on the face, mesh nets. So here I used a pencil in skin tone and just scribbled a bit of neck and décolleté area, and now I'm just free-handing a bit of watercolor. I'm not using any pencils to sketch anything or any pens, and just enjoying myself. So this is a great type of exercise where you try a new maybe art supply and incorporate it into your artwork. So without overthinking, just going for it, and that will give you a good understanding of how the pigments or the compounds of the paint work, and yeah, you're just kind of getting introduced to that specific medium. So like you see here, the chartreuse really came out quite well. If you look into the right top corner, the Sherbet Lemon is a lot more yellow on its kind of own, but I had a little bit of the residue of Payne's grey, like I said earlier, and that created the perfect chartreuse color, and I absolutely love it. So little dresses are painted, and now I'm just carrying on with stick legs. Very simple. I'm simplifying this illustration, but I actually quite liked it because I didn't want this to be about too much detail. This is just, you know, trying out a new art supply and having fun. And then just filling in those little gaps in the dresses with the nude pencil. I think when it comes to illustrations, the textural difference really makes the illustration stand out a little bit more and more interesting. When everything is done in one medium, I find personally that the illustration doesn't come through. I mean, there are examples where it does work, but for me personally, I enjoy combining different textures. And the good thing about Derwent is that they have the same colors in different mediums. So here, for instance, now is the Inktense pencil set, the 72. That was the first ever pencil big set that I bought, and this was many years ago, probably about 7 years ago, if not more. And my current favorite color, like I said, is the Sherbet Lemon, so I'm really happy to have it in both forms, the watercolor form and the pencil form. And what that helps to achieve is, again, playing with texture. So I'm adding little details with this pencil, and it's a totally different feeling. We're using the same color, but the marks that you can create with a pencil are obviously very different to the ones you can create with a wet brush and the paint on it. Another good thing about this pencil is when you actually scribble the color on the paper and then add water, because they're water soluble, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have it dry, but you can also make it into a watercolor. The other thing is I find that it doesn't fully dissolve in water, and what happens is you can actually create this like a tulle type of a fabric look where it's transparent, because it pulls a bit of the paint into the water, but you still get to keep the details that you laid with the pencil, which I absolutely adore. And like I said, the versatile way of using it is adding a lot of fun to my illustrations. So once I have finished with the dresses, I decided to keep it quite minimal. I didn't want to add any detail to them and just move on to the faces. And now moving on to the Derwent Drawing Pencil in Chinese White. It's a super opaque pencil and I love using it to bring back the white of the eyes. Also, I've done a video which I'll try to link up in the right top corner, where I have compared all of my white pencils, and Derwent has quite a few pencils that are superb for this type of work where you need full opacity. The other pencil that comes to mind is the graphite tint, also surprisingly super white. So I don't know, the formulation of it is quite interesting, because supposedly it has graphite in there, so you would imagine it to be a bit tinted, but it's actually super white. So it's a miracle of a pencil and very interesting product to work with. So I would highly advise those two, but otherwise watch that video if you want more options for your best whites. And I draw them out on black paper, white paper, and compare them. I have a couple of pencils which are water soluble as well, so yeah, if you are after a white pencil, watch that video. So yes, that was a lot of fun, and then I'm just carrying on with adding a few more colors. So this is a Luminance pencil. I used a couple of the Luminance pencils in this video. I think the dark blue one for the shoes was the Indanthrone blue that I used earlier, and then I also used the nude color, which was the burnt ochre 50%. And now I am using the anthraquinoid pink for the cheeks, and I think that's about it. Now, in terms of pinks, I find that there is a few gaps in the Derwent Lightfast pencils for me personally. I don't have enough pinks in there, the pinks that I need. But otherwise, there's the colors are beautiful. So this is the 72 pencil set that I have taken out of the tin, and I put it into this lovely turquoise kind of pencil carrier bag, and it flips like a book, so it's super convenient for me personally. I find that it's a lot easier now to get the right pencil color. I always have it laid on my desk and can reach to it and quickly grab the right color because there's a lot of pencils in there. So the red that I just used, that was the Scarlet, super beautiful classic red. Now moving on to a couple more pencils from the Derwent Drawing Pencils. So the pencils that I will be using is the light sienna, then I have the Mars orange, and the darkest out of the trio is the terracotta. And I love using those three pencils together in my illustrations for shading and adding a bit of dimension to the face. It makes such a big difference. Also, the formulation of these pencils is amazing. I really hope that one day Derwent, if you're watching, please do create a bigger set of these pencils. They are just amazing. They're like butter. And although my understanding is that Derwent Lightfast Pencils were created after the Derwent Drawing Pencils because of the formulation, and it's a similar formulation, but in terms of working with these pencils, I still find Derwent Drawing Pencils are my top favorite pencils. Just not enough colors. That's the only problem. Yes, so I'm just carrying on with a bit more shading and adding dimension to these cute little faces. Going back to the Inktense palette, I find that adding a few droplets of water directly onto the pans and creating a very thick mix of the paint makes it look like ink, super intense in the color, and you can see the diversity again here of the tones that you can achieve. Here I wanted to create little hats, and I will vary the proportion of water and the paint, but like I said, the darkest can be achieved very easily, and it does have that super inky type of a look to it, and it's just a lot of fun. And then, you know, easily you can dilute it a bit more and create a watercolor effect. So going from that very dark intense ink to a lovely transparent watercolor is very easy with these paints. that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this illustration, and thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.